Wow, we did it. 100 subscribers. Who would have thought? It started with 0, then it was 5, then it was 10, then it was 12, then it was 16, then it was 50, then it was 80, then it was 100. Holy wow. I just want to express my gratitude for all of you out there who have clicked that subscribe button. That's amazing. That's 100 different people who decided that the Soul Tree Project was worth paying attention to, decided that personal transformation was worth paying attention to. This isn't really about me. This is about the fact that 100 different people decided that at some capacity, personal transformation, content involving philosophy, psychology, and introspection is worth paying attention to, is worth is worth engaging in your life. That's amazing. So, thank you so much, everyone who's out there, for subscribing to the Soul Tree Project. I'm honored to be delivering you content. For those of you who are new, please look through. We have podcasts, video presentations, little video blogs. There's all sorts of content here from analysis of Lord of the Rings to just people talking. And oh yeah, quick comment on the Lord of the Rings thing. That those videos are really coming at it from a Jungian lens. So that's not me analyzing it from my perspective. That's me putting my Jungian hat on and trying my best to use those terms to explain the movie. I think it's a very useful context, and I just want to make the distinction that it is a bit different from maybe perhaps what I might say if it was just talking about psychology as I understand it as a whole rather than just a Jungian perspective. However, that doesn't take away anything. It's actually extremely valuable to look at it from one viewpoint, so we can start to really build a toolkit of this language and learning how to uh, introspect through certain viewpoints, and then step back and have a more global Gestalt viewpoint. So, thank you so much. I've got some guests coming up on Saturday. I'll be talking to an ex-military officer. His name is Dennis. He's also, I think, a veterans specialist or consultant. So he's now his profession is to work with veterans. He's an awesome guy. He's also interested in psychology. He's a psychology student. The way I met him is we're both in graduate school together, studying these things. So there's a lot to be said um, about his work in the world and where he's headed. He's really excited about the direction he's taking his life, and he has a ton of experience and expertise in a lot of different areas, and also that psychology interest and that Jungian interest as well. So that'll be a really fascinating thing for us to take a look at. Wow, 100 people, 100 people. Oh, I know that's not a lot compared to some YouTubers, but for me, 100 people is 100 people. So thank you so much for being a part of this thing. And wow, sheesh. You know, I know this channel is going in a lot of different directions. Like I said, podcasting, video presentations, vlogs like this, short little check-ins, and the core essence of this whole thing is just personal transformation. So any way that we can get that conversation going is important. One of the things that I've been reflecting on a lot from being a part of the university, both in graduate and undergrad, um, there's a culture emerging of identifying as a victim and celebrating victimhood. And this podcast is about taking personal responsibility for our own experience of life, and going beyond the blaming society. Oh, or blaming other people, because it doesn't matter where we are in life. All we have is what we have, is what ourselves and what's immediately around us. And so, what can we do about it? How can we work with our brains, with our minds, with our psyches? How can we use mindfulness to create an experience that's worth having? regardless of how the external world responds to that experience. The external world is going to do what it's going to do. Now, there's a lot of people in the New Age movement who think that if you change your mind, you change your world. Um, I think that's an optimistic viewpoint, and it might work in several situations. I also think it's important that we know that even if it doesn't change what's outside, uh, at the very least, our experience of what's happening will shift, and our capacity to see opportunities and to see what's around us in a different light will shift. Because in a lot of ways, we're simply seeing what we've been programmed to see. We're seeing what we've told our brains is important to notice. So, whatever goals that we've programmed into ourselves, that's what we're going to notice. So if I program a goal of protecting my sensitivity at all times, what I'm going to notice is anybody who could potentially hurt my feelings. That's what my brain's going to pick up all the time. So I'm going to be hypersensitive about that. And then eventually that's not functional for me anymore. So I'm going to start reassessing and reprogramming and saying, okay, well, actually, what I really want to empower and what I really want to notice is all the opportunities for connection around me, all the people who would see me for who I am, all the places where I could contribute something and be contributed to. So that's another program I put in. And then lo and behold, I start picking up those nuances, and the other ones start to fade away a little bit. So this is all practice. This is all taking out the old program, putting in the new one. So we can't forget the biological basis for how our reality is experienced. I mean, after all, we do have a body. People forget this a lot, especially in the humanities programs of the university. Um, we forget we have a body, as silly as that seems, and we start to think that we're a blank slate and that we're only the result of what happens and what we've been told and how we've been conditioned. But really, we are deeply biological creatures, obviously, and what's happening in our brains, the what's happening in our genetic programming, what's happened in our ancestry, it matters. It makes a big difference in where we are and how we got here and where we'll go from here. So let's bring back the biological connection. That doesn't mean that the spiritual side of things doesn't hold value. It holds a tremendous value, and I can experience those phenomena insofar as they're happening for me as a human being in my body, or around my body. So my body's interacting. It's part of the human interface. So let's remember, as people who are interested in transformation, bring the body in, bring the brain in, understand what's happening, use mindfulness to redirect those processes. Don't blame culture for everything. Understand that when we get reactive, when we get sensitive, when we get angry, when we get happy, these are neurological processes. There's different chemicals being released in the brain and the endocrine system all over the place. So we need to bring back that piece, I think, as a culture a little bit. It seems all too obvious, but I think it's worth stating that these are things that matter. These are things that are happening. This is an important perspective, and it's all nature. It's all about nature connection. We are a part of nature. We are part of that greater ecosystem. So the more we can understand ourselves, then we have this opportunity. Just like in permaculture, right? There's permaculture, which is using the environment in a particular way to get the best and healthiest growth of the ecosystem possible. That's what a permaculture is. And you can look that up on Google if you haven't heard of it, but that's a very specific type of gardening. That's the same way we should be working with our psyches. If we understand the ecosystem of our brains, our bodies, of our imaginations, of our life experiences, then we have this amazing ability to see where things need to be put. So I need to plant this over here. This needs this much sunlight, this much attention. We start to understand ourselves psychologically. We start to understand how to work with the parts of who we are, how to position them in places where they're more likely to be successful, right? So, more to come later this week. See if that metaphor means anything for you, that analogy, and start maybe processing that if you're interested. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment, and wow, right on, everybody. Thank you so much. I can't believe that there's people out there who care to see what's said on this channel by guests, by myself. Not that I can't believe it, but that I'm honored by it and I'm excited by it. And thank you very much. Hit that subscribe button if you're just seeing this video. Hit